how we might utilize our land, how we might utilize our funding, what sort of um, creative opportunities we may have with different financial instruments. Hopefully, that information was beneficial for you. And now we're going to actually move into a component of our session where we kind of focus on very directly customer response. And we're going to receive a report from our ombudsman. One of the things I did want to share with you is we are going to have a slight modification to the schedule given the time. So after this session concludes, we're going to ask you to come back for the team building at 5:15. So hopefully they'll give you time if anyone needs to take care of any business. We just ask you to come back for 5:15 at the conclusion of this current particular session. So with that being said, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Director Carter, who is our ombudsman here at Richland County, for her presentation.
Good afternoon, everybody. Today, we are not going to talk about problems because most of the time when people say ombudsman's office, they think of problems and complaints. So today, we're going to talk about some solutions. Okay? If everybody would turn to section 6. Okay, using data to create efficiencies and improve functions. Our one-stop database generates a variety of reports. Departments can access these reports to identify trends, areas of concern, and return calls. Currently, at their request, weekly reports are sent to administration, Councilmember Newton, and Weaver. If you look in your packages, I put a set of reports and also a little handout, and we'll get to the handout later. In one stop, we have approximately 50 reports that can be generated. Today, I'm going to show you a few reports that we use that are very helpful. Our first report is called a callback report. And with the callback, that is when a citizen calls and they report a matter and they call back on the same matter. And most of the time, they call back to tell us that no one has contacted them. They want to report some more details on that matter, or they want to check the status. Complaint statistics. This is one of the reports that shows us that you can get information in a given time frame in the department. It lists the service request types and it lists the service request number, and it shows the average days to completion and the percent that has been completed. The department summary. This report totals the number of service request types and the ones that are open and closed in a given time frame. Overdue request. Overdue requests for each department. We run these reports and they tell us information. They tell us all the complaints that have not been responded to in less than 30 days, between 30 and 90 days, and more than 90 days. The service request count. This report shows us the service request number, the department, and also the number of requests the department received for each service request type. It also shows the request number, the date the request was created, the due date, the citizen's information. Streamlining operations and reducing complaints and concerns. The Ombudsman's office takes about 2,000 calls each week. We receive about 600 emails, and we also receive about 1,600 service requests. Most of the time, all of these service requests come from citizens. Most of the calls come from citizens. We were tasked with trying to figure out how can the Ombudsman's office minimize the number of calls that we receive. I thought about that, and I was like, I don't know how we can figure out how many calls, how we can reduce the calls. So what I came up with is let's take a different approach. Instead of waiting for the citizens to call us, maybe we should report matters. So we actually live in Richland County, most of everybody in this room. We live in the county, we work in the county, we drive the roads every day. We go to the store, we go to work, we go everywhere. And we see concerns, we see problems, we see all sorts of things. But by a show of hands, how many of us report them? How many of us say, I know somebody else is going to report it, or I was going to report it? Okay. So most of our family, our friends, our colleagues, our coworkers, and our neighbors, they also live in Richland County and they work in Richland County. We should want our roads and our communities to be safer for everyone, not just for us, but for everyone. We shouldn't wait for the citizens to call. We have over 2,000 Richland County employees, and most of these employees travel these roads as well. Some of them work in the field. A lot of times citizens call our office and they say, the county was out here. I know they saw this problem. We have vehicles that are all over the county. They may go out for one concern, but there may be another concern, and it might not be in their department, so they just keep going, and they don't report it. What's wrong with that picture? We can do a better job. We can report things. Anything that we see from the public right away, we can take the time and we can report it. And we can do that by using our one-stop external app. Report an issue. You can report an issue by using your smartphone, your tablet, your laptop, or your personal computer. It's designed to be user-friendly, quick, convenient, and a way to report issues. Employees can create a profile by using the county's email. And this requires a way for us to identify who's reporting matters. So we should have county employees reporting matters as well as citizens reporting matters. Requests that are reported that are not located in Richland County, with this app, they are able to send this request electronically to outside agencies. Currently, when we receive a request for the city or for the state or for an outside agency, we have to send those requests electronically to the departments. Using the external app, if it's not in our jurisdiction, it will be sent automatically. So you also have the ability with the app to check the status of your request. So if you enter a request and you do not enter it anonymously, you can check the status. If a person enters a request anonymously, they'll be given a service request number and they can call the Ombudsman's office. So right now we're going to show you a demo of the external application.
Let's take a look at how citizens can create online service requests for the Ombudsman. To receive updates on the issues you report, create a profile or log in with an existing profile. To begin, click Submit Request. You have the option to enter an exact address or intersection to specify the location associated with your request. Begin typing the address or street name. As you type, a list of valid Richland County addresses or street names will appear below the entry box. Select the address that matches the issue location. Next, click Select to confirm the location. Select your issue from the drop-down box. Describe the issue and be sure to answer all the questions. Optionally, use the Add Picture button to provide a photo of the issue. Now click Submit. If you're logged in, you'll receive updates via email. You can also view a history of your submitted requests from your profile. If you submitted a request without logging in, the request will be considered anonymous. Record the service request number if you plan to follow up with the Ombudsman's office.
Kyle, you're going to show them the QR, give the QR code? The QR code? So we would like for you to use the QR code, and we would like for you to test the system. Please. Yes. This is new. We are actually in the testing phase right now. So we want people to practice. The Ombudsman's office is practicing right now. Next week, we're going to roll it out to some of the service departments and people that work in the field. So we want you guys to test it, tell us what you think. IT is probably tired of me because I've been stressing that it needs to be simple, it needs to be clean, I want this, I want that, so they're kind of tired of me. But I do have a lot of suggestions, and they have been very helpful in working with me to make sure that we bring you a good product. So we also want your input because we're still in testing phase. Mm-hmm. It will be used internally and externally. Internally, we will track how many people are actually reporting it inside. And then we'll have the citizens and the residents who report it so we can track those. That's what we track right now. Currently, we don't receive a lot of requests. We do receive them from you, but other than that, we don't receive a lot of requests from employees. Yes, ma'am. Correct. You will not be able to find this in the App Store. Correct. Correct. We only have about 8 service request types using the mobile application. However, we tried to think about what requests you see when you're driving. You know, so we are open to adding other service request types, and we also have a general service request type. So if they don't see the request, they can always use a general. If they put in a location and that's located in the city, then it'll automatically go to the city. And it'll also give them an email. It'll give you a message saying that this request has been sent to the city or it's been sent to Department of Transportation.
And sorry, we have Pugh and then Livingston. Miss Livingston, okay. And just to confirm, you said the city, But does that apply for all municipalities? Meaning that if it happens in Forest Acres, it'll go to
Yes.
Forest Acres. If it happened in Irmo,
Yes.
it'll go to Irmo.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Director Carter, will that demo be available for
Yes. We plan to open it up to the public in probably early spring. We just want to make sure we test and test and test before we open it so that people don't experience problems. Currently, we have noticed that there is a problem if you're using it on your mobile device. If you're attaching a picture, there is a little delay, but we are working on that as we speak. You can do it anonymously, or you can create an account with your county email address. Well, we want to track the county employees that are reporting. No, they can report it anonymously. Mhm. Most people don't want to reveal their identity, but they can always report it anonymously, and they don't have to create. Okay. 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 And we're in the testing phase, so we can make some changes. Yes. Okay.
Ms. Carter, I think you can continue.
That's it.
Okay. Anything else in this rest of this packet that we needed to look at? And I know you handed out some sheets. Anything there we need to be aware of?
This one is just your quick tips. This one just shows you how to maneuver through the app. But as you can see, it's kind of self-explanatory.
Yes, sir. You recognize?
Mhm. No, sir. I wish.
Yes, ma'am. You're recognized, Councilwoman Eileen.
Director Carter, I'm new to County Council, so could you please explain the process for me in terms of once someone comes with a complaint, what are the phases that complaint goes through? I've gotten a few calls and they'll say to me, well, I'll ask them to contact the Ombudsman's office, and they say, well, they tell me to call you. So can you tell me what steps a complaint goes through before ultimately citizens are advised to contact their council representative?
When a request comes to our office, we will take that concern depending on what the request is. Now, if they're asking for funding, if they're asking you to support something, but if they just have a general service request for a service department, we're going to take that request and forward it to the department. That department is going to get that information, and they should contact them back, and they should address their concern. In the app, once they submit the request, they're going to get a service request number, and they can go back and check the status. But most of the time, they should call back if they want to check the status if the department has not contacted them back. And that's what I talked about with the callbacks. That's one of the reports that we use, because unfortunately, sometimes on occasions, the department didn't get to them. They didn't get to them timely. So the citizen doesn't know what's going on, and so they want to check on the status of their request. But we shouldn't tell people to call their council member unless it's something that needs approval. But that is not the normal process.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Councilwoman Barrett. You sure? I'm getting ready to turn into another topic. Okay, go right ahead.
Yes, our calls have increased. We don't really see a decrease for our office. December is a slow month because most of the time people are out Christmas shopping and they don't tend to complain as much until after Christmas and when the taxes are due. So that's the best time for us. But in any given day, people are always calling, they're emailing, they're leaving voicemails. It depends on what's going on. If they see something on the news or in the paper, or if we've got some types of grants that are available, people are calling, asking questions. Any type of funding that's available, they want to know. When the reassessment went out, people are calling with questions. They're upset. The closer it gets to that penalty with the taxes, they're calling. They want to know, how can I get a payment plan? But by now it's too late. So, different things trigger the calls. With the weather, it's going to trigger more calls because people want to know, are they going to pick up my trash? They want to know, are you closed? I think last Thursday we started getting calls, and we probably received about 75 calls from employees asking, was the county going to close? So different things make our call volume rise. I can show you. I've got the annual report. Usually I give that to Mr. Brown every year, usually at the end of January. And that report has not been totally generated, but I felt like you were going to ask that question. But I do have the numbers on my phone. Okay. Okay. Okay, I got it for you, though. I got it. We can get it. Look, we can get it.
Thank you. And Director Carter, yes, if we can make sure that all council members get a report just of calls for their district, I think that'd be good.
Okay.
And that is one of the items, like last strategic planning forum as we went through, one of the highest items was related to trash, garbage collection. And I know we still receive a large number of those calls now. And as we know, county employees, we do not handle that. That is something that we contract out. And so I do think as we look at strategic planning and one of our goals of operational excellence and making sure that we are responding to our residents' needs. If we can really make sure to look at that, and I know that's not you particularly, that is a different department, but I think we as a body, knowing that that's something that's not going down, is, you know, this year looking at how can we start evaluating some of these contracts and service areas. And I see this in our packet, so I don't know if we're going to get to it later, Director Maloney, but I know it's in there. And so I think that's a very important issue that is not you, Director Carter, but we appreciate you taking all those calls.
Mr. Maloney is prepared to talk on that subject.
That'd be amazing. Director Maloney, thank you. Yes, Councilmember Newton, you recognize.
One question that I have is when you think about call volume, one of the reasons that you get so many calls is because you are a one-stop shop, and a lot of calls that go to you are SCDOT calls, are City of Columbia calls, are Forest Acres calls, are Dominion Energy calls. And so 2 questions. One is, would you prefer that when we're out in the community, because when I first got here, it was like, call the ombudsman for everything you need, and they did. So one is, when we're out in the community, would you prefer that we say, you know, call the ombudsman for Richland County things? If you don't know who it is, do the ombudsman, but if it's SCDOT, call SCDOT, or would you rather us say, nope, just call the ombudsman for everything?
I think that's better because we have the transportation penny project. So sometimes it's a state road, but it's not, it's under that penny program. So it wouldn't go to DOT.
Great. So I will keep telling them what I've been telling them. And I guess on that note, maybe one of the things that might be a helpful resource for council members in general, just so that we have, and I don't know who would create it, is a list of who some of those other offices are, because sometimes we are talking to people and it is straight up DOT, or we know it's not us. And so, you know, if we had that information in a consolidated place, you know, SCDOT has a system where people can report issues too, but we don't always know how to direct people there. So that could potentially be a resource for us.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
No. Thank you, Director Carter. We appreciate the video demo and the QR code. And is the QR code on the printed stuff you gave us?
It is not.
Okay. So we don't.
We're going to send you the link.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Maloney?
I know he is. Ready to talk trash. Well, I don't have a PowerPoint, but we do have the booklets.
Yes.
So right after Director Carter's presentation, we have solid waste and recycling, page 1, strategic planning forum informational briefing. And this is a great flow to follow that, because Director Carter showed you how they have a database in One Stop, and it identifies, and you can see on those graphs or those charts, the different sources of specific calls and things like that. And then County Council approved us to revise the collections contract to work better with that by putting in a customer service penalty to the contractors that gives us a tracking system to find out the source of the problems. And on page 1 of the forum's document here, we're monitoring the contractors. This is the first title. And what we're looking at below is the chart for the October results. Since then, we've had November results. I'm about to get December results, but on the next page, we can go over a 12-month rolling number. But what this shows us is scores that we got from customer service complaints. And we'll have like area 1, 2, 3, 4. And just so new council members know, there's an area 5A and 5B with different contractors, 6 and then 7. So there's 8 areas. And we have at this time, Waste Management, GFL, Capital Waste, New South, and Johnson Garbage Service. So 5 different contractors out there. they're allowed to have 2 contracts.
Director Maloney, I'm sorry, I just want to
Yes.
highlight for our new council members. So the areas are not aligned at all to council district numbers. There's a separate map that I believe we can provide new council members at a later date if we don't have it, just so
Yes.
you can understand how these areas are drawn within the county, because it's not tied at all to district lines or any of that.
Yes, ma'am. That's a good point. And when I go through where our current problem is, I can kind of explain whose council districts are that involves. But when we look at Area 1, we've got our bulk calls, our invalid calls. These are calls that came in, but they may have been collected that day. So somebody was just worried, I don't see them picking up my trash yet, and they got it by the noon the next day or whatnot. We allow 24 hours in the contracts right now. And if they do that, then it becomes invalid. If they don't, that's a valid complaint. And so we'd like to get both of those down. But as far as the valid complaints, those are the ones where we monitor and put penalties towards the contractors that exceed a certain threshold. And that threshold is in the paragraph above it. It says a contractor is determined to be satisfactory if the number is below 0.65. That's 0.65 valid complaints per 100 households. And then if the number is below 0.3 valid complaints per 100 household, that's considered to be high performing. Now these were set by coming out of COVID and what we were dealing with work shortages and what we're still dealing with, or what the contractors are dealing with, is getting trucks turned around, new trucks in, repairs and that sort of thing, supply chain issues. They're not having as many problems with the hiring and employees at this point, but they still have some issues. So in other words, where I was heading with that is we had a lot of problems then, and that was the routine, and we could find the best contractors were barely getting under 0.65. And so that's how that number got picked. Now, when we go into a new wave of contracts and we start looking at these results, we'll probably be able to lower those. Like 0.25 is passing and 0.1 is high performing. And we'll see that on this very page. So when we go to the right column, we see that the Area 1 contractor was hitting 3.85 misses per 100 households, and the satisfactory is 0.65. So that's many times worse than they should be. The next contractor, 0.22, and one contractor in Area 3 was at 1.60. So about 2.5, 3 times worse than they should be. Every other contractor below that line was very high performing. Okay, so that was the status there in that month. But we don't penalize them in the first month. The second month they continue to do it, they'll get a big monetary penalty. And then the third month it grows, and the fourth month it grows to the point where it's 3% of the contract value that they're receiving, which could be 100,000, 200,000 a month, or even more. And you got a penalty in the tens of thousands of dollars. So on the next page, on top of page 2, that's probably more pertinent because it shows a long track record. So it's a full 12 months of contractor performance. And you can see the first contractors in red at 1.18. So about doubling the amount of misses than is what is acceptable. And every other contractor is high performing, below that 0.3 high performing. So we remember back, the Area 3 contractor was out of spec for 1 month. They got it back, they got themselves back together. And so for the running track of the year, they're at 0.22. So what we're doing about that, and that's kind of what the rest of our report is about, is, okay, well, we have a focus here, a focused issue here that we can now, because of the customer service database and all the problems associated with solid waste calls, we know where the source of a bulk of our calls are. And we see that, a good performing contractor had, in a year, they had, here's one with 3 valid complaints in a year, 0, 13, 42, but then all the way up to 2,666 valid complaints in a year. and generating 6,000 calls. So that's where we need to make the most change. And so what we're doing with Area 1, Area 1 had grown to, it's just under 20,000 customers. And we have a high performing contractor around the city, Johnson Garbage Service, and they're sitting there with, let's see, on pages we actually show, and we show the, right next to the last column, the average household cart count. That's how many independent homes or, where there's a roll cart that they pick up. And so you see how Area 1's at 18,000 and Area 5B, which is Johnson Garbage Services, is 1,600 homes. So we're moving 5,000 customers out of Area 1 into Area 5B. That's one of the management items we're allowed to do. And that will provide continuity to Johnson, who has, they're high performing, and yet they have the donut holes and all these things in and around the city, and they're still high performing. And so now we just say, okay, around the city to Area 1 of the collection area, you're going to take 5,000 of those customers. So you're now going to have, over 6,600 customers, and that balances them out. As a high performing contractor, they should be having a balanced amount of clients, customers. That area that's with the 5,000 customers is in District 5, District 4, and in District 2. It almost covers all of District 2, not quite all of it, but it gets up to about the State Park area, Harbison, that kind of area, and covers a lot of that. It cleans up and puts all the District 4 and 5 areas on this, Johnson Garbage Service. It doesn't get up to District 1, who also gets a lot of the complaints, but it will, in theory, that's taking them from 19,000 to 14,000 customers, which is more manageable. And then those resources that they've been providing need to stay there to cover those 14,000 customers. In addition, because this has been ongoing for a year and it is out of spec for a year, we're recommending to put this out to bid for Area 1 this spring. Their contract will come due in February of 26, about just over a year from now. And it takes, if you're going to put an RFP out for solid waste, it takes 8-9 months for the RFP needs to be completed at that point, so then whoever wins it has that kind of time frame to get equipment and personnel lined up, particularly when you're talking about something like 14,000 customers. So we're going to plan on doing that. That would come before council like it did in 2021, 2022, when we have some of those RFPs. And, then you can decide on the results of the RFP and decide whether we proceed or negotiate. But we will proceed with getting that to you. We've been doing monthly meetings with the contractors, quarterly meetings with the contractors coming together into a group. And in the most recent meeting we had with the contractors, we did get into a very important issue that you brought up last year at this very, retreat. 25% of our incoming calls in solid waste are to make appointments. So they're not complaining about anything, they're making appointments. We have anywhere between 8.5 million and 10 million customer services provided just from curbside collection. Only 14,000 of the 8 to 10 million are bulk item pickups. We looked into the idea of getting rid of the appointments and just allowing a monthly or bi-monthly pickup of bulk items. And so some of the things that came out of the meetings with the contractors are, it'll cost $1 to $2 more per month to do that, because now you're asking them to run around biweekly or monthly past 92,000 homes versus 14,000 in a year, where they can plan that out through appointments. They'll need more equipment, and that's the cover where they'll need more equipment. They'll have offset loads. They'll be, they'll have more missed collections. So what we perceive is that we'll lose 250 appointments a week, but we'll pick that up in complaints because of misses. The other thing is and things that the contractors recalled, particularly Bruce Johnson, who's been working for the county for some time, is that the county begins to look a little dirtier because there's going to be bulk items out there. If it's biweekly, they could be out there for 2 weeks. And if they're missed, you know, they'll come back, but you're going to have a lot of roadside debris. So that would be the most negative part of it. And while it's 14,000 versus 8 million of the other things that they do weekly and biweekly, we still think that's the best service that we can do, is to take the appointments, take the 250 calls a week. There is a miss rate with those of about 6 to 8%, which is kind of high, but it's still a lot lower number than what we think the collection of that being a routine collection to go past all 92,000 homes to try to find that bulk item and make sure what you're taking is meant to be taken. So those are some of the pluses and minuses of it, and we came away with from the contractors, just, you know, they would stand to gain money from it, but they also realized that it would become very more difficult to get their routes done in Richland County with that sort of system.
Any questions related to Director Maloney's report and overview and next steps? You recognize Councilwoman Newton?
If there are no questions, I just want to take this moment again to praise the solid waste staff. We were one of the areas, my district, that had a huge issue. I spent 7 to 10 hours a week on the phone talking to people about garbage, and a lot of the policies and procedures that we changed during that time, and it has been dramatic and wonderful, the difference that it's made. And so thank you to you and your team for working through what was really a tough time. Thank you for implementing those procedures and going forward. And for any district that is having issues with this, I just want to say that these tools really did work in terms of getting a better solution. So I am thankful for you all the time. And even when I'm not calling you, I'm still thankful. So
Thank you, man.
Thank you, Ms. Newton. I think we all feel that way. Director Maloney, any other comments? Thoughts? All right, Director Maloney, that concludes your report. We appreciate your willingness to serve. And if we don't have any other questions, this will conclude this session for this evening. And we ask that you take a break and then to report back at 5:15. Thank you.